Hi, it's Martin, and we're back for the next episode of the Business Stuff podcast. I'm joined by Jack again from the Accelerator team.
Hello, I'm back again.
We've spent a long time over the various episodes talking about a lot of things. Some are quite heavy topics. We mentioned forecasting a lot. That might not be your bag. That might not be something you're interested in. We've talked about different types of inflation, and a lot of this is quite heavy technical stuff. One thing we've realised though is that a lot of people out there might be creatives, they might be more visual in the way they work, and we haven't really catered to that audience yet. So we thought we'd do something a bit more light-hearted today, but still with this pretty serious undertone. And the timing on this is that a lot of people have March year ends, or if you're a sole trader partnership, the tax year end is the 5th of April. So it's quite a timely thing to do to maybe start this exercise now, so that over the next month, by the time you start your new financial year, 1st of April, you've got a bit of meat on the bones of a plan, yeah? And we're going to talk about something called, it's an exercise Jack did with us yesterday, internally actually, with one of our teams, and we enjoyed it so much, I've persuaded him to tell you all about it today.
That person will remain anonymous who said it was fantastic. Or...
That was me, I'm not ashamed of it, I loved it. So I'm not a detailed person, I'm a visual person, so it's called the newspaper headline, Jack. What can you and we'll put links to the original authors of this exercise in the comments.
Unfortunately,
as well.
I can't take credit for it. It is a brilliant tool though, which we've just come across over the past couple of weeks. And essentially, as you said, it's a visioning exercise. So it's getting you to predict the future, and it does it in a bit of a novel way. I mean, the way that we've done visioning stuff previously is through mind mapping and stuff like that, which is also quite a visual tool. But this is much more, I think it's much more for the creative type, as you said. And essentially, so it's encouraging you and your team, because it's a team exercise. It shouldn't really, unless you're by yourself. If you've got a team, ideally, it's better to have everyone involved.
Get input from everyone who,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's basically inviting them to predict the future of the business. And it does it in a way of terms of, as if it's being reported on by the press. So there's 5 different elements to what we're talking about here. We're looking at, you need to come up with a headline, you need to come up with a subheading, you need to come up with a little sketch, again really catering to the creatives there.
Because all good stories have a picture.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think actual pictures are so powerful when it comes to visioning and sort of stuff. I mean,
there's also a visioning exercise you can do where you can draw your future as well, which is a similar kind of idea. Literally draw what you want to be doing when you want to do it.
That's saying some of the visions. There's some of the pictures that were drawn. I mean, I thought it was a bit like primary school, but
Yeah. But that's not important. It doesn't have to be good.
No, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be it's more like a Picasso, but we don't want to have a.
It doesn't have to be realistic.
No, not at all. After the sketch is then the report, and then they're also attributing some quotes. But obviously, I'm not just going to stop there.
We'll go through these things. Yeah. So Jack, as well. I mean, we're going to explain this, and it's important to note here that people could probably do this exercise in about the same time as it takes to explain it. It's only meant to be like a half-hour thing here, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're not like drafting a whole front page of like a broadsheet newspaper.
Yeah, it's not the FT.
So the picture is a sketch. It's just meant to give someone something to think about. It's a visualisation thing. It's not an accurate representation.
No,
the quotes are just, and the report are bullet points. It's not meant to take too long. It's meant to be fun, light-hearted.
Yeah.
And ideally done across the whole team, so you can get different versions and then see where the common ground is, pull together various plans for departments.
Absolutely, and that's the whole point of visioning, and pulling together common themes and having as fewer common goals as possible.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's where the strategy drives from there.
Is the report here as well, Jack, then, if you're a business owner and you do this with your team? So we did this departmentally yesterday, and there was 6 people in the team that did it. The 6 of us that did it will be more invested in this because it was our vision. We weren't being told what to do here. We weren't set any targets, we were just given the brief and then told to do it. That's got to be a good thing, hasn't it? If you get your team to do this, it's their vision.
And that was a really interesting thing, is that when we did it yesterday, the 3 groups that we split you up into, you almost deliberately went and tried to focus on a specific area of the department which you are interested in. But despite that, and the actual stories, headlines, etc., the individual parts were different, but there were common themes that we could pull across there. So it shouldn't be just put off by the fact like, well, what's the point of having finance there and having operations there, having HR there, because that we're not going to come up with any common themes. But you'd be surprised how people allude to stuff, and it can actually all be pulled together neatly into a number of common themes. Yeah.
So let's start, and I think an important word to throw in here is it's a fantasy exercise. We're fantasizing about a thing, event, a time in the business that is big enough to hit the front page of your local newspaper.
Yeah.
So this isn't, we smashed the March target. It's like, this is, we're dominating, we've done something truly exciting, truly groundbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the first part of this comes in. The 5 parts is the headline. The headline has to be punchy, grabby.
Yeah, and it basically, in a very succinct way that headlines do, and obviously depending on what newspapers you read to, they're always punchy, and they sensationalise and put the point across very succinctly. Yeah,
and normally, the bigger the text, the fewer the words, the more extraordinary the event it's trying to describe, and we're trying to capture an extraordinary thing here, aren't we? This is beyond stretch goal kind of plan, and this is like ultimate fantasy from the business, isn't it?
Yeah, and that was certainly the case when we did it yesterday. There was some very.
We created a new superhero yesterday, which you'll discover in future episodes, hopefully.
Well, you'll see it in your newspaper, and then in 5 years' time.
Or by any national newspaper, or even some international newspapers. So the headline, like per the official guidance, describe the extraordinary success of the company or the business in one catchy, attention-grabbing headline.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are, and we're visualising this as each of the parts come up as well, so you've got something to take away. So the next part is the subheading then, Jack. This is where we reveal a little bit more about the story, but we're not telling the whole story here. This is just following it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a standard kind of front page article. There is the heading and there's the subheading, which builds on it slightly. But again, as you said, we're not trying to give out all the minute detail here. It's about building on that headline slightly, providing a little bit more flavour of and that's ultimately what this exercise is slowly adding more and more detail across the different sections, adding more context.
I feel like we should have came up with an example here, but we didn't. So but if we did, it would be your business wins national award or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Local Northeast business wins national award despite stiff competition.
Yeah.
After a 5-year growth plan that saw them dominate their market, or dream maybe bigger than that, but that's the kind of thing. So the headline is wins national award, and then it's a bit more pattern around that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, the creative people who will be doing this exercise will love this sort of stuff. And
I'm sure they'll come up with better examples than I just did. So the next part of this then is any good story has a picture, doesn't it?
Of course.
So this is the sketch.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a sketch.
Yeah.
So don't get tied up on it. But again, the importance of this is it helps you to visualise. So in my rather tedious example there, it's the business owner or it's the whole team with a bunch of awards, or there's something to visualise the thing you've done, isn't it?
Yeah, a trophy aloft. And we touched on it already, that there's a lot of school of thoughts in terms of the strategy stuff, where if you can't draw your vision, you can't see your vision, you can't do your vision, basically. So if you can't put down onto paper a sketch of how the future success of the business is going to look like, then it's going to be a hell of a lot more difficult to actually realise it.
And I really keep trying to emphasise this, but we're not trying to this whole exercise is a half-hour exercise.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
from start to finish. So yeah, we're not like.
You're not getting a graphic designer to jump on his computer and start mocking up some Photoshop.
It's stick figures, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's stick figures. If there's a car involved, it's a box with wheels. It's we're not focused on the detail here.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is that there is a debrief at the end, so you can't explain what the sketch is. Because again,
people don't have to know what the picture is of. Because I thought it was Medusa in one of our pictures yesterday, but apparently it was filmed with pound signs above the head, wasn't it?
Yes.
But anyway, it wasn't snakes; it was pound signs. So the next thing then is the report, and this is where I think a lot of people might get too bogged down in the detail. We're not writing a story here, are we?
No, it's not. We're not looking to fill up 3 columns worth of text in a 2,000 word kind of article, mock article. It is very much bullet points, kind of laying out the very basics of the story, fleshing it out to something that's a little bit more tangible and a little bit more real, I suppose.
So give me an example then. So you know, you might have won an award. We've got national award win. Local firm comes good. The bullet points in the report here are, you know, what the award was in, how long they've been in, you know, despite only being 5-year-old, they've won a national award, they've already won regional awards, that kind of detail goes in.
Yeah, if there was any kind of setback maybe when they're like, well, in 2013.
Overcame it, yeah.
Yeah, just laying that out, but it's not like we sat down as a team back in 2012 to come up with this idea of well, I have to say it's an estate agent, and just basically laying out a plan. No, it's very much kind of like, as we've said, bullet points.
Oh, but you know, after going from 1 branch to 5 branches to then a national franchise, you know, sale of the business floating on the stock market. Well, it's like just the outlines, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and these are all key like visioning points.
Because what you kind of setting out here are the steps that will allow you to achieve this headline, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're almost doing this as a historical exercise of the reasons that you got there.
It's quite similar to an exercise that you're actually trying to do internally in terms of the business development stuff. Yeah. Which I've forgotten what the name is.
Zander, Benjamin Zander. So again, it's we're stepping into the future at a point of success to then look back at how we did it.
Yes.
Rather than sitting now to say, well, if we try this, it might work. We've got to have gone through the thought process of what will work, what the obstacles were we overcame. Yeah, so it is similar to that.
Yeah, a condensed version of that.
Yeah. And I think this version of it is a little bit more fun as well because it's a team thing, and you know, and actually I found it really interesting listening to the other teams' versions of it as well.
Yeah.
And the final part here then really is quotes. We need to include some quotes here from either actual people or fictional people, but either way it's fictional quotes about what happened, isn't it?
I suppose a good way of approaching this part of it is from the perspective of the business owner in terms of how they would feel if they'd actually in that position, if they had won that award, how would they feel? And again, it adds a little bit more human emotion to it, and a sense of reality, and another kind of emotion for you to aim towards, I suppose, when you're looking back at, oh, that's what I want, so that's what I'm going to get.
Yeah. I suppose if you're the business owner, I mean, if you've won an award for being, you know, recognised as the best employer in the country, you might want to see aspirational quotes from your employees. Or if you're the best supplier or the greenest supplier, you'll want to see industry recognised people saying, yeah, look what they did, that was awesome. And it's not about ego, this is about that external verification of the goal that you're setting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's putting it all into perspective in terms of the different stakeholders, customers, suppliers, employees, and obviously how you as a business owner, how you feel about it as well.
Yeah, okay. So we've kind of explained that there then. So just to quickly recap, we've kind of got a headline, we've got the subheading, the sketch, the report, we've got the quotes, which is all good. We've run this through, there's half a dozen versions of this come out at the end. Let's end this exercise because this is just stage 1, isn't it? What do we do next with those then, Jack?
So we can tie it back to kind of our fundamental principle, which is the now, where, how. So this is very much sitting within the visioning side, which is the where. And ultimately this gives you the picture to go, right, well, we know where we are at the moment, we know where we want to be. Yeah. And now this is when we start drilling into the kind of the action. So the strategic.
How are we going to do it? Yeah. Because the middle bit of it now, where, how, the middle is actually how, isn't it? But we say it now, where, how, because we want to get there, and then how are we going to do it?
Yeah, it provides it quantifies kind of the distance between where you are at the moment and where you want to be, and what you need to focus on. So it's from there, it's understanding in terms of the strategic side. It's trying to pick out the key, most important areas that you need to focus on in order to achieve that vision. And that can be achieved in any number of ways. Obviously, we've got a few tools that we use, but ultimately it's about trying to focus on identifying those key strategic areas and just really developing a plan based around them.
Yeah.
And,
So, because if you said you want to be recognised as the best employer, well, you need to find out where you are now.
mm-hmm.
So even that might be something you need to start and say, well, do my employees even like working here now?
Yeah.
And then you need to think, well, and how am I going to improve it? You know, we've got, it's 300 people here and there isn't even an HR manager. It's like, well, better get it.
Yeah.
Because you can walk back from the success, can't you? You can walk back from, well, what would a business look like that won that award, that
mm-hmm.
did that thing? Well, it would have all these pieces in, wouldn't it? So you can
Absolutely.
walk back from that fantasy version, can't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can lay out the kind of the steps, the roadmap to how you get there, basically working backwards. And in terms of employee stuff, there's a lot of easy wins you can probably get out initially in terms of if you want to be recognised as a great employer.
Start by being nice.
Yeah, that's a given, I suppose.
Yeah, so.
Not always a given, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Do you think this could work as a solo enterprise then, Jack? Or do you think this is the kind of thing that is always going to be better with input from others? Because I'm conscious there's a lot of sole traders out there who might think, well, I haven't really got anyone to bounce this off. Do you think this could work? Or
I think it could work because I think this exercise at the very least puts something down on paper. And again, we probably talked about this previously, but just actually putting something down on paper and committing to it is so powerful against having it in your head. There's this accountability piece of, this is my vision and this is what I want to work towards. When I suppose when it's in your head and you've got these lots of great ideas, it's so easy not to hold yourself accountable because they're just fantasies.
Yeah.
But actually putting it down on paper is real. So in that sense, it could work. But I agree in terms of getting a better vision involves getting more people involved. I can certainly see the point in that.
Because I'm conscious here, I need to make sure we get this right. If there's multiple people in your business or multiple people in the team, then get all of their visions. It's only half an hour.
Yeah.
What does it hurt? If nothing else, at least your team are going to think, well, at least they care what I think. So that's not a bad idea, is it?
Yeah.
If there's only you in the business, it has to be your vision, but there's nothing to stop you bouncing it off someone so they can challenge you and ask you, well, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Why is that important to you? It might just be that you have someone to bounce it off when you're done, isn't it? But equally, there's no reason why we couldn't help people do this as well.
Of course, no, we can certainly.
And it's only half an hour. It's not a big thing, yeah.
Yeah, what more can what more can we ask for? It's very straightforward in terms of doing it. I mean, yeah, you said it there. You hit the nail on the head. It has to be your vision if you're by yourself, and the bit afterwards is where people struggle as well. How do I actually go about doing it?
Yeah.
Again, and if I don't want to label all creatives, but I can imagine they'd be fantastic at doing this. But
this is going to be awesome, isn't it? It's going to be framed on the wall, which isn't a bad idea, mind you. No matter how good this looks, I think sticking it on the wall so you see it every day.
Especially if you can draw.
Well, even if you can't, having this somewhere as a visual reminder that you did want to do this, because it's sometimes easy to forget what you set out to do, isn't it?
And just imagine having that on the wall and next to it, the actual article.
Yeah. Well, that's not a bad idea, yeah. Who was it? The comedian Jim Carrey wrote himself a check out for $1 million, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah. And then...
Cashed it?
No, he wrote himself a check out dated for 10 years in the future for $1 million. As a visualisation exercise. He's actually, despite how bad the mask is, he's actually got some pretty good talent. He's actually pretty deep on some levels.
We're going to sidetrack into a Jim Carrey podcast now, are we?
Well, possibly
top 10 Jim Carrey movies.
If we struggle to come up with something for next week, we might just have some cuts from Jim Carrey films. Truman Show's the best one. But anyway, people just, where to start, put half an hour aside, sheet of A4, not much else to it, is there? Very easy, very quick to get going. It might be the start of a big exercise where you then start to plan it out, but it's a great simple tool for people to get going with, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially if you're struggling, if you don't know where to start.
No, I totally agree. And this, as I said, this all came about through a little bit of research on our part in terms of finding these tools out. And as I said, we're going to put the links in the description below to help with not just this, but there's also a suite of tools that you can use to really work on.
Yeah, good. I hope you found that a little bit different. Hope you found it interesting. Would love to see. Feel free to share with us what your newspaper headline and your front page looks like. That really would be great if we could see any. But meanwhile, any questions, put them in the comments. Get in touch. Let us know what you think. If there's any topics you want covered, any areas you just think I wouldn't mind knowing a bit more about that, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.